Thank you, Alexa, and a warm welcome to everyone. As Alexa already prolonged, in today's webinar, I'm going to cover three main topics. Look back into history a little bit and discuss what has been driving the need for digital transformation in commercial buildings, and then bring everything to now and discuss the role that COVID-19 has played into shaping those drivers. Then we're going to look into how companies are responding short-term with strategies to put employees back into the office, but also how they are taking advantage of the crisis to build long-term strategies to create more agile and resilient organizations. And finally, we're going to look at the role of connected lighting, data, and software applications activated on top that they can play not only in the short term, but also in the long run in your organizations. I'm planning to cover those three topics in about 35 minutes, and that will leave us around 10 minutes at the end for questions. The total duration of this webinar is around 45 minutes. Let's start by looking back a little bit. And what we have been observing the past few years is a move towards more digital buildings. And by digital buildings, we mean the buildings that embrace technology to optimize day-to-day operations and ensure the well-being of their employees. And what has been driving this trend is actually four things. One is demographic trends, or in other words, customer preferences. The workforce now is being made of people that demand more from their work environment, people that are tech savvy and they are looking for tools and technology to do their job better. The second key trend has been about top-line gains. High-performing buildings, green buildings, smart buildings can achieve a price premium, are those buildings that can attract tenants and retain tenants more. There has been a very interesting study from the European Commission recently that indicated that high-performing buildings can add as much as 12% in a lease value. And then it's about cost savings. Technology that can help real estate planners, building managers to reduce the costs, the running cost of the buildings. Take space as an example. We do now know for fact that offices are underutilized by as much as 50% in some cases. If you consider how much a desk costs in most of the capitals of this world, anything between $10,000 to $15,000, you can immediately do the maths and realize that there's a lot of money being wasted by desks not being used. And finally, sustainability. Buildings are responsible for a large part of the CO2 emissions of this world and do have an impact on the environment. So technology that can make the buildings greener, more sustainable is driving the industry forward. Now, these trends that we have been watching for years are now becoming more prominent due to the crisis, creating the need for those organizations that were left behind to accelerate their transformation journey. Let's look at one by one. Let's look at the demographic trends. Flexibility seems to become a trend across all demographic groups now. Take millennials as an example. If we look at the surveys 2 or 3 years back, the main theme that was coming out of millennials was the need for more flexibility, the need to work from home more. This hasn't changed because of the crisis. What it has changed, based on recent surveys that came to light, is that same group says, you know what, it's not ideal to work 5 days per week from home. It's not very productive for me. I would like to go back to the office sometimes. Contrary, baby boomers, as another example, who traditionally have been thought as a group of people that are not that tech savvy, are those that are embracing now remote working, are those that are embracing technology to work from home. So COVID-19 has transformed our relationship with home and work. Home is not anymore just a place that you go after work, but it's becoming part of a company's real estate portfolio. And one thing is becoming certain, that as we move forward, we go away from 9-to-5 jobs from the office into more flexible work hours and ability to work from anywhere. Let's look at the top line gains. Historically, buildings have played a great role in the spread of diseases as well as any indoor environment. But a building that can be operated smartly can prevent actually the spread of a disease. Let me try to explain myself through a couple of examples. Take CO2 levels as an example. The ability to measure the CO2 levels inside the building can be an indication for poor circulation ventilation. Monitor the air quality can also be very helpful as a measure to prevent weakening of the human's immune system and make it more susceptible to diseases. Or humidity as another example. We do know now, there has been reports out that they show that when the humidity in a building hovers around 50 or 60%, then the virus don't survive. So, and in general, buildings that can meet high standards of health and promote the well-being of employees will be the buildings that gain the trust of the tenants, will be the buildings that can attract and retain tenants longer. Cost savings. I mean, formalizing home working policies might lead in the short term in excess space in the offices. That doesn't mean that customers need to go and immediately try to remove that space, but it might mean that you have to use your space now differently. You might want to have employees back into the office to do in-person work or collaboration work, and then work from home when they need to do more focused type of work. The other trend that we see on cost savings is that as we go forward, the fact that employees will require more flexibility might result in actually tenants requesting more flexibility from their leases. So we might see a demand for shorter leases going forward. And finally, sustainability. I know that many people, and that comes a lot into my conversations, think that sustainability might not be a short-term priority anymore because simply people don't work from the office anymore and they don't have to commute there. But I really tend to disagree. I think we do need, as a society, to take bold climate action on climate right now. And as our CEO said recently in one of their messages, if the current crisis is like a bad dream, the nightmare of the climate crisis will prove far worse. So I think we need to take the opportunity now and drive the acceleration of renovation in buildings in that crisis, creating more healthy, more sustainable, greener buildings. And maybe there's an opportunity in different parts of the world to tap into the recovery funds that governments are putting in place to accelerate that transition. So as you can see from those two slides, that these trends remain relevant today, during and after the crisis. And they now create a sense of urgency to accelerate the digital transformation of commercial buildings. And data and technology will have a great role to play in that journey. So how do customers really respond to that crisis, and how they are looking into the future? First of all, let me tell you that developing a response to this crisis alone, it should not be the goal. The goal of real estate owners, operators, facility managers should be to develop long-term strategies that focus on building a resilient and agile organization. And at Signify, we see those responses built into three phases. The first phase is about plan and respond to the current crisis. The second phase is about recovering and ensuring continuity. And the third phase is about thriving via building resilience. Let me walk you through each of those phases. The first phase which is going to be short term, it is now, companies should probably plan and respond to that crisis. What that really means is do their studies, right? Determine which functions return to work and which can work remotely. Assess the type of work teams need to do in person as an input to space planning. Provide support to those working from home, not only in terms of equipment, but also in terms of best practices and policies for remote teams. Develop a plan to get targeted people back into the workplace, probably on a rotating basis. And then adjust the workspace to fit the short-term requirements by, for example, adjusting the capacity of the meeting rooms, or creating a sitting plan and layout, or providing protective equipment like masks and disinfecting units, or even drawing one-way flows into the corridors so to avoid people bumping into each other. And finally, and importantly, companies will need to build a management and communication plan to drive confidence and motivation into the workforce to return. The next phase would be about recovering. It's about ensuring continuity by leveraging data and digital tools to inform strategic decisions. Installing sophisticated building systems that can be remotely commissioned, configured, and maintained without having to dispatch people on site. Or what about those IoT sensors that customers have been talking about for years? Maybe now it's the time to do so. For example, occupancy sensors to optimize the estate through space planning, or environmental sensors to monitor the health of your buildings and the well-being and promote the well-being of your employees. We see companies also in the medium term reviewing the workspace app experience. I cannot see why companies cannot have now apps given to the employees that they can act as a wayfinding solution. They can act as a two-way communication, for example, channels where companies are pushing information to the employees and allow the employees to feedback back to the companies, or even as access authorization, where you, like a boarding pass, for example, you in an aeroplane, you can secure your place into the office. And phase number 3, in the longer run, there will be a growing emphasis on cognitive buildings and AI-driven solutions where decisions can be automated. We're going to move from the phase where humans are informing machines to the phase where machines are informing humans, with a growing emphasis on connecting the different building systems, bringing new data into the equation, automating decisions to drive performance and process optimization. At Signify, we believe that connected lighting systems, the data generated through connected lighting systems and all the services that can be offered on top will be one of the key smart building technologies driving digital transformation. And there's one simple reason for that. Since lighting is everywhere, its light point can provide very accurate data about a specific area. And this level of accuracy will enhance the analytics capabilities and the use cases that can be covered. And what we mean by connected lighting, we mean 3 things. When you put those 3 things together, you create a connected lighting system at a very simple form. It's about connected luminaires, sensors integrated and powered by the lighting infrastructure, and then software services activated on top, either in the form of software applications or in the form of data that can be used in third-party systems. Let me zoom in a little bit on the sensors and on the software applications. Starting with the sensors, which is something that gets most of the people excited. Signify is working towards releasing a new sensing platform that goes well and beyond the current data that are generated through our connected lighting systems. With those new sensors, we will have the ability to generate data on occupancy, people count, temperature, humidity, noise, but also location. And that already gives you a first high-level indication of all the different use cases that can be activated and the value that can be generated based on the data that are collected. And these are the data that we are using at Signify under the Interact brand to build software services, to build services that add value to the customers. And those services, they split in two parts. Traditional lighting-related software services, where customers can monitor the energy consumption of their lights, they can do asset management, remote maintenance, or even scene management of their lights. And then the so-called beyond illumination or beyond lighting applications, where we currently focus on three products. One is a space management application. It's a dashboard, is a tool, is a web-based tool where customers can understand how their portfolio is being utilized and try to optimize it. And it's mainly focusing on facility managers, corporate real estate planners. And the second is about the employees. We have two products there that are targeting employees in the organization like all of us. One of them is called Interact Workspace app. It's a mobile app that you can find in the app stores today and allows people to navigate indoor, control the lights, find free spaces, and book meeting rooms, among others. And the second is a kiosk app. It's similar to a touchscreen that you might be familiar with if you go into a shopping mall, for example, where it displays a digital floor plan with different points of interest on it and allows people to navigate indoors and find the free space. Let's see how those applications that we have been working on can help customers in the short term transition back to the office in a safe way. And we came up with 7 examples to present to you today. Of course, there might be others, and I'm looking forward to hear your ideas during the Q&A session. We're going to focus on 2 of those applications. One is the space management, and the other one is the workspace app. So as I said before, the space management application is about using the occupancy data that we generate through our lighting systems and visualizing them and providing analytics for the users to understand how the space is being used. And this type of tools will be particularly relevant and important now in the short term, as we saw earlier, because home working will be formalized. We expect more people to work from home, and these will probably lead into excess space in the short term. And as I said earlier, companies should not rush into trying to remove that short space, but they should try to understand the data and see if that space can be used for other purposes, for example. What if we take some of those desks and create more open plan areas where people can go and collaborate when they are in the office? But also it is this data and these applications that will help in the long run companies better negotiate their leases by having the information beforehand. The second example is also around the space management application, and let me pause the video for a minute. But we are working towards a new feature where it will allow users of the space management application to set targets and monitor those targets in real time and with historical data. So we see a lot of corporates now in the short term setting targets of 20 or 30% utilization with the aim to move into 50% towards the end of the year. But how do those companies really know how many people they have in the office? Can they pool the real-time numbers to understand if those targets that they set are being met? And maybe if there's extra capacity, maybe they can increase the targets, can get more people into the office. And that's exactly what this application with this feature is aiming to do. It's allowing you as a user to set a target and monitor that target through the space management application, where color coding would indicate if you are above or below the target that you have set. You can have real-time data, but also historical, where you can look back and analyze how the targets and your strategies are performing and adjust if it is needed. The third example, it builds again on it's about the space management application, and it builds on the notion of using the occupancy data to create better cleaning protocols and procedures. I mean, the COVID-19 crisis obviously brought in the surface the need to clean areas more frequently. What we are aiming to help customers through our space management application or through our just occupancy data is to provide that visibility on which areas are being used more. And that data then can be used to inform better cleaning procedures. What if you can use the occupancy data to understand which are the high utilization areas within a building, and maybe you focus your cleaning services in those ones? Or what if you can use this data on real time, where you know when a meeting room is becoming vacant, and then you can dispatch the cleaning services to clean that room to create some trust that this can to the other employees that they want to use it. So the three examples that we just saw out of the seven were focusing on the space management application, and we saw how you can use the real-time and historical occupancy data to make better, more informed decisions. The remaining four examples are tapping into the workspace app, into the Interact workspace app. One of them is building on the trend that we currently see, that people are moving away. The demand, sorry, let me say it this way, the demand for light switches, wall UIs is decreasing. And employees, they don't really want to come in contact with high-touch areas. So what if you do have an app, a personal app for personal control of your lighting, for example? That's a feature which is today released with a workspace app and allows the employees to control the light in the office through a personal app, through the workspace app, avoiding the contact with high-touch areas. The next example, and let me again pause the video, is about giving that real-time information, giving that real-time data back to the employees to help them select the right place. The workspace app can help employees understand where the highest utilization areas are. Let me restart the video. Employees can see on real time how the different floors are being utilized and select the floor with the lowest utilization to go and work from, under the assumption that the floor with the lowest utilization will be the safest one to go and work from. Less people, more space, less chance to get infected if someone has the virus. The next example is about desk reservation. We have seen a lot of demand from our customers for a feature where it will allow people to reserve a desk in the office before they go to the office. Again, as we said earlier, this is the example of the app, of a personal workspace app that can act as an authorization back to the office. We're working with customers now implementing that particular feature, and what they do, they mark out certain desks and they offer the rest up for booking. So only employees that had made a reservation are the ones that are allowed to go back into the office and work from there. And finally, it's about routing people into the office, either to avoid areas with high utilization or to find the right points of interest around the office. Let me explain myself. Through our indoor positioning system, activated based on visual light communication or via Bluetooth, we can provide positioning services to the customers through the Workspace app. Overlaying the occupancy data on the floor, what users can see, they can see where they are and where most of the utilization happens in the office. And that can help them navigate through the floor plan by avoiding areas that are mostly crowded. Another example which we come across, and that's particularly useful for customers, is we can commission in the floor plans additional points of interest. Right, in the short term, points of interest around disinfectors or masks and gloves can be very helpful for the employees that work from the office to find where those points of interest are, right? Where I can go and get a mask, where I can go and get some gloves, for example, or where I can go and clean my hands or dispose the masks. All of those points of interest can be configured in a floor plan, and through positioning, you can identify where those areas are. And that's really the 7 examples of how the connected lighting system, together with the data that are generating from the system, how they can be used in software applications to help customers transition back in the office into the short term post the COVID-19 crisis. I hope you enjoyed the presentation.